1. We're checking out this absolutely gorgeous 1978 Chevy El Camino that just popped up on Craigslist for $15,000. This brown beauty is rocking the business in front, party in back vibes that only an El Camino can deliver. The seller claims this car-truck hybrid runs like new with just 60,000 miles on the odometer, which is impressively low for a vehicle that's over 4 decades old. It's powered by a V8 engine paired with an automatic transmission sending power to the rear wheels. The classic American setup we all love. Now, $15,000 might seem steep for a '78 El Camino, but the seller states it's in excellent condition with a clean title. The brown paint actually looks period perfect on this model, though I definitely want to inspect that finish in person to verify its condition. These El Caminos have developed quite the cult following, and finding one that's well maintained is getting harder every year. The utility of the truck bed combined with car-like handling makes these vehicles uniquely practical classics. If you're in the market for a distinctive ride that turns heads and can still haul your weekend project materials, this might be worth checking out. Just make sure to get a thorough inspection before handing over that cash. 2. We're looking at a piece of American truck history, a 1970 Ford F-250 that just popped up on Craigslist for $14,950. This old-school workhorse comes with some interesting history and, honestly, some condition issues we need to talk about. The seller is upfront that this red F-250 is in fair condition, which is refreshingly honest. With the odometer showing 100,000 miles but noted as rolled over, we're likely looking at 200,000 plus miles on this vintage truck. The 390 V8 engine is described as strong, which is a major plus for these old Fords. These power plants were built to last. There's some emotional attachment here. The seller mentions it belonged to their family, and they don't want to sell it, but need the space. It's been sitting for a while, which always raises some red flags. Sitting vehicles typically develop issues with seals, gaskets, and fuel systems, so expect to put some work into this truck if you buy it. The interior is described as good, which is promising for a 50-plus-year-old vehicle, and it comes with a clean title and automatic transmission. Being an F-250, this is a heavy-duty truck built for serious work, not just a pretty face. At $14,950, I'd say the price is on the ambitious side for a truck in fair condition that's been sitting. The seller is accepting best offers though, which suggests some flexibility. 3. We're checking out this sweet 1976 Ford F-150 Ranger long bed that just popped up on Craigslist for $10,000. This classic workhorse is rocking that vintage charm with some solid recent maintenance that makes it worth a serious look. This white F-150 comes with a 5.9-liter V8 paired to a 3-speed automatic transmission, the perfect combo for cruising and hauling. With just 74,189 miles on the clock, this truck has surprisingly low mileage for a 45-plus-year-old vehicle, which is definitely a major selling point. The current owner has put some real work into keeping this classic running right. We're talking brand new BF Goodrich KO2 tires with less than 100 miles on them. Those aren't cheap. A fresh battery, new power steering pump, new carburetor, and new radius arm bushings. The engine's been tuned up, and there are some nice touches like custom dash lights and a toolbox in the bed. Now, being sincere here, it's not perfect. The seller is upfront about a few issues. The dash has some cracking, pretty common for these old Fords. The windshield needs resealing, and the AC isn't currently working. The seller thinks it might just need a recharge, but that's not confirmed. For $10,000, you're getting a solid classic truck with good bones and some recent maintenance. These mid-70s F-150s have been climbing in value, especially clean examples with the long bed Ranger package. The white paint looks clean in the photos, and it has that unmistakable vintage truck presence that turns heads. 4. We're looking at something truly special on Craigslist. A 1976 Ford F-250 True Highboy with an asking price of $27,500. And folks, this isn't just any old F-250. This is the real-deal California truck that collectors go crazy for. For those who might not know, the Highboy is what enthusiasts call the 1967-1977 F-250 404s with their factory-lifted stance before Ford lowered them in mid-77. These trucks have a distinctive look with that extra height that just screams vintage off-road capability. This particular example is powered by the 360 cubic inch V8 paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, the powertrain combination that serious truck guys want. With 143,284 miles on the odometer, it's been used but clearly well maintained. What makes this truck especially interesting is that the seller claims it's wearing its original paint and has never been repainted. Finding a 45-plus-year-old truck with original paint in good condition is increasingly rare, especially for a working vehicle like an F-250. The current owner has put some work into refreshing key items: new carpet kit, headliner, tires, spark plugs, wires, seat cover, and a fresh oil change. All the running gear is said to be original, which is impressive for a truck of this vintage. The seller also mentions having the Marty report, which is essentially the birth certificate for Ford vehicles, verifying its original configuration and production details. Always a plus for collectors and enthusiasts who value authenticity. 5. We're checking out something you don't see every day: a 1947 Studebaker M5 pickup that's currently listed on Craigslist for $15,000. This isn't your typical restoration. It's a head-turning hot rod with some serious attitude. This little red Studebaker has been transformed from its original configuration into a proper street machine. Under the hood, you'll find a 305 V8 that the seller describes as strong, with high compression on every cylinder. It's been upgraded with a new Edelbrock RPM intake manifold, fresh Edelbrock 600 carburetor, and an HEI distributor for reliable ignition. The power flows through a turbo 350 automatic transmission to a Ford 9-inch rear end with highway-friendly 2.88 gears. The seller is upfront about the condition. The red paint shows well, but has wear, which is honest for a driver-quality classic. It's got that perfect hot rod soundtrack thanks to two 1/4-inch dual exhaust with glass packs, and it rolls on 16-inch steel wheels wrapped in BF Goodrich Silvertown white wall tires. The white walls are described as weathered, but the tires still have good tread. Inside, the seller admits the seat upholstery is rough and is currently covered with a blanket, but the seat structure is solid, so it's not like you're getting a spring in your butt. The truck has been converted to 12V electrical, though the original gauges aren't connected. What I really appreciate is that this truck isn't just for show. The seller claims she rolls down the highway at 70 all day, which means this is a classic you can actually drive and enjoy. It's got a fuel cell in the bed with a new Holley fuel pump, so the fuel system has been updated for reliability. 6. We're checking out a true piece of American muscle on wheels: a 1982 GMC Sierra Classic C2500 square body that's currently listed on Craigslist for $12,500. This brown beauty is a camper special model, packing the legendary 454 big block V8 under the hood. Located in Powell River, this Sierra Classic represents that perfect era of GMC trucks when they were built like tanks, but still had enough comfort to drive every day. The seller describes the body and interior as being in very good shape for the year, which is impressive for a 40-plus-year-old work truck. Let's talk about that powertrain. The original 454 cubic inch big block V8 paired with an automatic transmission. These engines are known for their torque and durability, making them perfect for towing and hauling. The camper special designation means this truck came with heavy-duty cooling, suspension, and electrical systems to handle the extra weight of a slide-in camper. The seller is honest about some minor body rust, which they've documented in the photos. For a truck of this vintage, especially one that's likely spent its life in Canada, some rust is to be expected. The odometer shows 30,597 kilometers, but the seller believes it's rolled over once based on the condition of the pedals and overall wear, putting the actual mileage at around 130,597 kilometers, about 81,000 miles, still relatively low for a truck of this age. Recent maintenance includes a new heater core, which is a labor-intensive job that's good to have out of the way. It's also riding on almost new tires, mounted on the original rims with hubcaps, a period-correct look that suits this classic truck perfectly. 7. We're checking out something truly special on Craigslist: a 1964 Ford Ranchero with an asking price of $13,500. This is one of those perfect blends of car and truck that has developed a serious cult following over the years. This particular Ranchero is sporting a fresh black paint job that really accentuates its clean, classic lines. The 64 model year is particularly desirable as it represents the second-generation Ranchero, which was based on the compact Falcon platform rather than the full-size cars like the original version. Under the hood, you'll find Ford's 170 cubic inch inline six-cylinder engine. Not a powerhouse by modern standards, but a reliable, simple power plant that's easy to work on and known for its durability. It's paired with a 3-speed manual transmission with a column shifter, 3 on the tree as the old-timers say, giving you that authentic 60s driving experience. The seller indicates the odometer shows 40,000 miles, though with vehicles this age it's always hard to know if that's 40,000 or 140,000. What we do know is that along with the new paint job, the seller mentions many new parts have been installed, though they don't specify exactly what's been replaced. At $13,500, this Ranchero is priced in the mid-range for these vehicles. Pristine, fully restored examples can fetch north of $20,000, while project cars might go for $7,000, $8,000. Given the fresh paint and new parts, this seems to be a driver quality example that you could enjoy immediately while continuing to improve over time. 8. We're checking out a real piece of American work truck history, a 1971 Ford 1-ton that's currently listed on Craigslist for $8,500. This is one of those vintage heavy-duty trucks that built America, and it's getting harder to find these in any condition these days. The seller is pretty light on details with this one, simply stating, "This truck is a jackpot for a collector or someone who can restore it," which honestly tells us quite a bit about its condition without saying it directly. Reading between the lines, this appears to be more of a restoration project than a turnkey vehicle. The enthusiasm about it being a jackpot for someone who can restore it suggests it needs significant work. What we do know is that it has an automatic transmission, runs on gas, and shows 15,802 miles on the odometer. Given that this is a 50-plus-year-old work truck, that odometer reading has almost certainly rolled over at least once, possibly multiple times. These trucks were built to work, and work they did. The 1971 Ford 1-ton trucks typically came with either the 360 or 390 cubic inch V8 engines, though the seller doesn't specify which power plant is under the hood. These were robust, torquey engines designed for hauling and towing, not for fuel economy or speed. At $8,500, you're paying primarily for the increasingly rare body and chassis of a vintage heavy-duty Ford truck. These have been climbing in value as the supply of restorable examples continues to dwindle. The clean title is definitely a plus, as title issues can be a nightmare with vintage vehicles. 9. We're checking out an interesting Craigslist find, a 1968 Chevy pickup truck listed for $12,500. Now, I need to point out something right away. The seller has labeled this as a Silverado, but that's actually not correct. The Silverado trim package wasn't introduced until 1975, so this is simply a C10 or C20 Chevy pickup from 1968. There are a few other curiosities in this listing that we need to address. The seller has marked this truck as FWD, front-wheel drive, which is definitely an error. These classic Chevy trucks were rear-wheel drive or 4x4, but never front-wheel drive. This is likely just a mistake when creating the listing. The odometer reading shows just 2,546 miles, which almost certainly means the odometer has rolled over multiple times or has been replaced. These trucks came with 5-digit odometers that reset after 99,999 miles. According to the seller, this gray beauty has a clean title, starts and drives with no leaks or overheating issues, which is definitely positive. It's equipped with a V8 engine and manual transmission, that classic combo that gives these vintage trucks their character. However, the seller does mention that carbon needs rebuilt, which I'm assuming refers to carburetor rebuilding being needed, an important maintenance item to factor into your budget. The listing is pretty sparse on details and photos, which makes it difficult to fully assess the condition. For a 55-year-old truck priced at $12,500, I'd want to see much more information about the body condition, undercarriage rust, interior state, and mechanical history. 10. We're checking out a true classic workhorse, a 1976 Dodge D100 pickup that's currently listed on Craigslist for just $3,000. This green machine represents an era when trucks were simple, rugged, and built to last. Let's be completely honest here. The seller has rated this truck's condition as fair, which is a refreshingly candid assessment. This isn't a show truck or a pristine restoration. It's a 47-year-old working truck with the battle scars to prove it. The odometer shows 100,000 miles, but with these old trucks, that could easily mean 200,000 plus miles of actual use. What makes this D100 interesting is its drivetrain configuration. It's a 2WD model with a 4-speed manual transmission paired to a V8 engine. That manual V8 combo is becoming increasingly rare and desirable among enthusiasts who appreciate the engagement of shifting their own gears while still having V8 power. The seller mentions they've had a professional tune-up done to get it running good and have invested in some key maintenance items including new tires, a new battery, and new spark plugs. There are apparently more recent repairs or replacements shown in the photos, which suggests the seller has put some effort into making this truck roadworthy. At $3,000 or best offer, this D100 is priced at the lower end of the classic truck market. These mid-70s Dodge trucks don't command the same prices as their Ford and Chevy counterparts from the same era, making them something of a bargain for those looking to get into classic truck ownership without breaking the bank. 11. We're checking out a piece of American truck history. A 1982 Chevy C10 Custom Deluxe long bed that's currently listed on Craigslist for $4,500. This red workhorse represents the final years of the iconic square body generation that has developed a serious following in recent years. Let's be completely honest about this truck. The seller has rated it in fair condition, and they're being pretty straightforward about what you're getting. This isn't a pristine show truck. It's a 40-year-old working vehicle with some issues that need addressing. Under the hood, you'll find the classic 350 cubic inch V8 paired with the bulletproof TH350 automatic transmission, one of the most reliable powertrains GM ever produced. The seller states it starts, runs, shifts, stops, which covers the basics, but also admits it needs some work without specifying exactly what issues need addressing. What makes this C10 interesting is its history. It's reportedly spent its entire life as a Wyoming ranch truck, which explains the relatively low 80,000 miles. Ranch trucks often rack up hours rather than miles, idling or driving slowly around property rather than making long highway trips. The emissions equipment was removed back in the 1980s, with upgrades including a new intake manifold, exhaust, and a quadrajet carburetor from a '77 Pontiac. This was a common modification back in the day to improve performance and simplicity, though it might create registration challenges in states with strict emissions testing. 12. We're checking out something truly special on Craigslist, a 1979 Chevrolet K30 Scottsdale 3+3 crew cab with an asking price of $12,500. For those who might not know, the 3+3 designation refers to the rare crew cab configuration that could seat 6 people, making these trucks highly sought after by collectors and enthusiasts alike. This particular square-body Chevy is a serious heavy-duty machine. We're talking about a 1-ton K30 4x4 powered by the legendary 404 cubic inch big block V8, the engine you want when you need to move mountains. It's paired with a 4-speed manual transmission and a 205 transfer case, giving you complete control over this beast both on and off-road. The seller is refreshingly honest about the truck's condition. While they rate it as good overall, they specifically mention that synchros are worn in trans, could use attention soon. This is important information because transmission work isn't cheap, and worn synchros can make shifting difficult, especially when downshifting. You'll want to factor this potential repair into your budget if you're considering this truck. With just 45,000 miles showing on the odometer, this K30 has relatively low mileage for a 44-year-old work truck. Though as always with older vehicles, It's hard to verify if that's original mileage without documentation. 13. We're checking out a seriously cool piece of automotive history. A 1968 Ford Ranchero that's currently listed on Craigslist for $14,000. This car-truck hybrid represents that perfect blend of muscle car performance with pickup utility that makes the Ranchero such a unique and desirable classic. Let's get right to it. This particular Ranchero has been built to run. Under the hood sits a rebuilt 390 FE big block V8 that was refreshed in 2018 with about 30,000 miles on the rebuild. It's been upgraded with an Edelbrock Performer RPM mild street cam, Edelbrock aluminum intake, Holley Pro Series 4150 carburetor, complete MSD ignition system, Moroso racing oil pan and pickup, ceramic-coated Tri-E headers, and an aluminum radiator. That's a serious list of performance upgrades that suggests this Ranchero was built by someone who knows what they're doing. The drivetrain is equally impressive, featuring a 4-speed manual top-loader transmission with a new clutch installed in 2021, Hurst shifter and linkage. Power goes to a Ford 9-inch rear end with Posey traction, new axle shafts, and bearings. There's also a new strange drive shaft to handle the power this big block is putting down. Stopping power comes from a Willwood 4-piston big brake kit up front installed in 2021 with completely rebuilt drum brakes in the rear and new vacuum booster and stainless steel brake lines throughout. This is a crucial upgrade given the performance potential of this powertrain. Inside, you'll find new Pro Car bucket seats, custom floor mats, and modern amenities like a Bluetooth-equipped custom auto sound stereo with 4 new speakers and an amplifier. 14. We're checking out this 1969 Ford F-250 pickup that's currently listed on Craigslist for $4,950. This is one of those honest, straightforward work trucks with some real vintage charm. This yellow ranch truck comes with the robust 390 V8 engine and an automatic transmission. With 100,000 miles on the odometer, it's definitely been used as intended, but that's part of its appeal. The seller mentions it fires right up and runs and drives well enough that they've taken it to the beach multiple times. Let's be real about the condition. It's a 50-plus-year-old work truck with some surface rust, which is actually pretty good for a 69. The seller is upfront that while it's not terrible, there is some rust present. It also could use a tune-up, probably. So factor in some basic maintenance if you're considering this one. On the plus side, it has power steering and power brakes, which the seller notes work well, and it's rolling on brand new tires. Being a pre-smog vehicle is another advantage for those in states with strict emissions requirements. It comes with a clean Oregon title ready to transfer, which is always good news for a vehicle of this vintage. 15. We're looking at this 1967 Ford F-100 long bed that's currently listed for $6,500. This is one of those classic workhorses that defined American roads for decades. This 2-wheel drive pickup comes with the robust 360 cubic inch V8 engine, which was known for its torque and reliability back in the day. The seller mentions the odometer has rolled over, so we're talking about a truck with some serious miles on the chassis, though that's expected for a 55-plus-year-old vehicle. What makes this particular F-100 interesting is the amount of mechanical refreshing it's received. According to the seller, it features an automatic transmission that's been fully rebuilt by certified professionals. That's a major plus since transmission work isn't cheap. They've also replaced all the wiring, which is a common issue in vintage vehicles and often the source of many headaches, rebuilt the entire brake system, and fitted new tires. The seller states it runs great, which is promising, though as with any vehicle of this age, you'd want to inspect it thoroughly. The ad doesn't mention body condition or interior details, so you'll definitely want to ask about rust issues and the state of the cabin before making the trip to see it. This F-100 comes with a clean title, which is always good news for a vehicle of this vintage. At $6,500, you're getting a piece of American truck history that's had significant mechanical investment and could serve as either a cool daily driver with vintage style or the foundation for a more comprehensive restoration. 16. We're checking out this 1983 Chevy C10 pickup that's currently listed for $8,000. This is one of those beloved square-body Chevys that have been skyrocketing in popularity over the past few years. The seller is pretty confident about this truck's condition, listing it as excellent with no rust and in very good condition overall. That's significant for these C10s, as many have succumbed to rust issues over the decades. If it truly is rust-free, that's a major selling point. Mechanically, the seller states it runs and drives great, though they don't provide many specifics about the engine or any recent mechanical work. The truck shows 50,000 miles on the odometer, but the seller notes it has rolled over, so we're looking at 150,000 plus actual miles, which is pretty typical for these workhorses. What makes this C10 stand out is the recent $2,000 investment in a lowering kit. For those who appreciate the lowered truck aesthetic, that's a significant upgrade already taken care of. The stance of these square bodies when properly lowered is pretty iconic in the truck community. The truck comes with a clean title and an automatic transmission, making it an accessible classic that could be daily driven without much hassle. Unfortunately, the seller doesn't mention which engine it has, likely a 305 or 350 V8, interior condition, or any other recent maintenance. At $8,000, this C10 is priced in the mid-range for these trucks. Clean, rust-free examples have been commanding strong money lately, especially with modifications already done. If you're in the market for a square-body Chevy with a nice stance that you can drive immediately, this one might be worth checking out. 17. We're looking at a seriously upgraded 1983 Chevrolet K10 short bed 4x4 that's currently listed for $24,500. This is one of those square-body Chevys that's had just about everything touched, and the price reflects the extensive work. This K10 started life as a New Mexico truck, which explains the seller's claim of all original sheet metal with no rust, a huge advantage over trucks from the Salt Belt. The odometer shows 112,500 miles, but has rolled over, so we're looking at 212,500 plus actual miles on the chassis, though most of the drivetrain is much fresher. Speaking of which, the original 305 has been replaced with a 350 crate engine, paired with a rebuilt 700R4 4-speed automatic transmission and transfer case, work done in 2021. The engine breathes through an Edelbrock aluminum intake manifold and quadrajet carburetor with electric choke. Visually, this truck has received a complete makeover with new silver paint, and the seller mentions they removed the bed to properly paint between panels, which shows serious attention to detail. It sits on Pantera alloy wheels wrapped in 33 Cowie 12.50R15 tires, though the seller honestly notes the tires are old with hairline cracks and would need replacement soon. The suspension setup is impressive with both a rough country lift kit and a 3-inch body lift, designed to accommodate up to 37-inch tires. It also features dual shocks at all 4 corners for improved off-road handling. 18. We're looking at something pretty special. What appears to be a 1935 Ford truck that's been transformed into a serious hot rod, currently listed for $28,000. First, I should point out that there's a bit of confusion in the listing. Ford didn't actually make the F100 model in 1935. The F-Series didn't debut until 1948, so this is likely a 35 Ford pickup that's been heavily customized. That's pretty common in the hot rod world, where these pre-war vehicles often become the canvas for creative builds. According to the seller, this is a beautiful hot rod and a car show winner, suggesting it's been built to a high standard. The heart of this beast is a turbocharged 350 Chevy small block engine, a popular and reliable choice for hot rod builds. It's been modernized with Phi-Tech fuel injection, which combines classic hot rod aesthetics with more reliable modern fuel delivery. Power flows through an automatic transmission, type not specified, to a Ford 9-inch rear end, which is essentially the gold standard for handling high horsepower in the hot rod world. Unfortunately, the seller doesn't provide many details about the body modifications, interior, suspension setup, or when the build was completed. There's also no mention of mileage, though that's less relevant on heavily modified vehicles like this, where most components have been replaced or rebuilt. The truck comes with a clean title, and the seller mentions they might consider trades, which could provide some flexibility in negotiations. 19. We're checking out this 1978 GMC Sierra Classic short bed that's currently listed for $18,500. This is one of those classic square body trucks that's been tastefully upgraded without going overboard. Right off the bat, I appreciate the seller's honesty. They clearly state, not a show truck, but call it a beautiful ride for sure. That kind of transparency is refreshing in the classic truck market where expectations sometimes don't match reality. Under the hood sits a 350 small block Chevy V8 that's been upgraded with an Edelbrock top-end package, which the seller claims produces around 315 horsepower, a healthy bump over the original output. It's backed by a 350 turbo automatic transmission sending power to the rear wheels. The truck features the convenient dual gas tank setup that was popular on these models. Aesthetically, it's sporting a two-tone paint job that the seller describes as clean but not perfect. Again, honest assessment. The truck sits on a staggered set of mag wheels, 20x8 up front and wider 20x10 in the rear, wrapped in Nitto tires, 245/50/20 front, 295/45/20 rear, for a modern stance. Inside, the interior is described as almost done, with TMI custom seats installed, though it still needs a console to complete the look. There's no air conditioning, which is worth noting if you live in a warmer climate. 20. We're looking at a seriously cool piece of American automotive history, a 1951 Chevy 3100 pickup currently listed for $24,500, or best offer. This is one of those iconic advanced design Chevrolet trucks that defined post-war America, with those gorgeous flowing fenders and timeless styling that still turns heads more than 70 years later. What makes this particular example special is how it's been upgraded with period-correct components while maintaining its vintage character. Under the hood, you'll find a 57 Chevy 283 V8, a significant upgrade from the original inline-six these trucks came with. That classic small block is paired with a Muncie 4-speed manual transmission, which would make this truck both more powerful and more engaging to drive than stock. The drivetrain is completed with a 57 Chevy rear end that's been converted to a more modern and practical 5-lug wheel pattern. The seller notes it has a dropped front axle, giving it that perfect classic hot rod stance that sits just a bit lower than stock without going overboard. This subtle modification dramatically improves both the appearance and handling of these old trucks. Perhaps most importantly, the seller describes it as having excellent original sheet metal and being a rust-free truck, which is increasingly rare for vehicles of this vintage. Finding an advanced design Chevy with solid original metal is becoming quite difficult, especially as these continue to appreciate in value.